We've got Jim Mead. He said, great gag, Costa. Thank you, Jim. So I told you, at least one person, even if they're out there in internet land, you're with me, brother. You are with me. Thank you very much. Ian Thompson, do we need to pick a few issues that engage all people at local, national and international scale? Could you please share the details of the book Professor Campbell mentioned? Should Landcare adopt bold missions? This is from Rob Spittle, that can be measured and celebrated as delivered. Example, sponsor change to regen ag, restore and connect habitat, etc. There was one here. Well done, Andrew. Interesting comments. Love your work. This is from Liz Ninnis. Love your work, Nat. SA Landcare hero. Connecting care of cultures and lands. Leading ladies like you are so important and highly valued. So, yeah, lovely comment there. So thanks to everyone. There's so many great comments and questions on there. We've even got Rowan Reed's on here. Well done, Andrew Stewart. Re-examine extension, not so much about funding trees and guards and more about supporting peer mentoring and the conversation. So thanks, Rowan, for that comment. But feel free, everyone, even here, if you're on your tablets and phones, have a look at the comments and continue the conversation. Now, we're just going to have a very quick chat from Claire O'Rourke, and it was really interesting because I got a text message. This was yesterday morning, and I love this stuff, right? I absolutely love when this stuff happens. So this is from my family down in Melbourne, and their little daughter sends me a text and says, I was on Play School, and it says, "Hi Costa, thank you for reading me a story. I loved it. Love Evie." And so I sent some gifts back of someone reading a book, and yay Evie, sending you lots of love, big hugs, and keep up the reading. And then they sent another text back and said, "The Gentle Genius of Trees." That's the book they're reading. I'm like, yeah, this is nice. "Thanks, Costa. I love reading. This is my new favourite book." And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. And I said, oh, that's interesting. This is the book I'm reading at the moment. "Together We Can," Claire O'Rourke. And then I look at the person I'm introducing here. Please welcome Claire O'Rourke, who has published a book featuring interviews with land carers. It's called Climate Community Connection, Landcare Transforming Australia. Claire, come on up. And I did show Claire this at the lunch break to say that it was official, and she endorsed it, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Thanks,
100%.
Claire.
Thanks, Costa.
I'm going to sit here.
G'day, everyone. Great to be here, just for a few minutes before you get to your afternoon tea. So I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Gadigal land today and pay my respects to elders past and present. I've come up from Dharawal country today, where the rainforest is always so beautiful. I'd like to pay my respects to any First Nations people here today. This will always be Aboriginal land. How are you feeling about climate change, everybody? Yes. Well, you are not alone. Almost 5 million Australians, that's 24% of people aged between 16 and 75 years old, are really just as worried as all of us here are today. Research I've led tells me that for people who are worried, the future of the planet rests very, very heavily on their shoulders. I'm sure you feel that. I work day and night on climate change. I'm a journalist, I'm an author, I'm an advocate, I'm a campaigner. It's a pretty unusual bundle of skills and experiences that makes up my work. But what it comes down to is that I'm on a constant search for how we create the influence to get the massive shifts in our society and in our economy to get us on a path to a net zero emissions world. And because of what I do, the kind of weird job that I have, I'm asked this question time and time again. What should I do? How could I possibly make a difference on such a gigantic problem? People who really care feel that fixing the problem is their sole responsibility. So I want to challenge you all today by saying that when it comes to addressing climate change, this gigantic problem, it's not the time for another hero. The hero's journey is one of the most established storytelling formats that we have in our modern world. From when Homer sat down to tell the ancient Greeks about Ulysses, to the moment when J.K. Rowling put the final full stop in that Harry Potter series. Countless books and movies have followed someone who, after struggle and self-doubt and sacrifice, finally wins the day. And perhaps it's all these stories that have locked us into the idea that we can only really get things done if we're being led by one of these folks who experiences that distinct transformation. Not a mere mortal, or should I say a muggle, like you or me. And what's more, climate change is set in this big arena where heroes and villains are battling for supremacy. The politicians are in our parliaments, the celebrities are on our TV screens, the tech billionaires and the financiers are all centre stage. And here we are wondering from back in the cheap seats, what can we do to make any kind of meaningful difference? A couple of years ago, I became so disheartened with how slow the pace and the scale of change was happening that I fell into a really big hole. It was after the Black Summer fires. I feared for the Illawarra Escarpment rainforest near my home, for the future that my two daughters will face, for the First Nations peoples who are losing their homes and culture, like people in the Torres Strait, where the bones of the ancestors are washing away as storms become more intense and the oceans rise. But I couldn't stay here stuck in this state. I had to find some answers. And when I took a few minutes to look up from one of those doom-scrolling devices that you're all holding onto, I found Julia, the marine biologist in WA, who is inventing a new bioplastic that's made from seaweed and can completely biodegrade, even in the ocean. I found Alan, the retiree who is building fire resilience with his neighbours by partnering with the local scouting groups and restoring the rainforest in the Blue Mountains. And I found Suzanne, the Kingaroy mum of four, who transformed her climate distress into positive local community action and hundreds of climate conversations. I found scores of everyday people, just like you and me, who were doing really amazing things because they saw what was needed and decided to do something about it, starting right where they are. And I was so privileged to take just a small look at Landcare's transformative work. Landcare is already at the heart of the most powerful way that we can tackle climate change, with volunteers and community members just like you taking really practical action in our paddocks and pastures, our waterways, our forests, on our beaches, and critically, by connecting people too. Landcare is healing people just as much as planet, improving the health and well-being of participants with as little as 4 hours a week of involvement, which is significant when you consider that 44% of Australians say they regularly feel lonely. This is all connected. We've had a really colossal few years. We've lost our sense of collective safety. The Black Summer fires saw 21% of eastern forests burn, and those flooding disasters, which I'm sure many in this room have faced, have been described as unprecedented again and again. We must ratchet up our action. And this network of land carers, bush carers, coast carers, dune carers, river carers, there's so many carers, and the intrepid land care group, the inspiration of a new generation. You have the skills, knowledge and connection and passion for this country that is transformative. It's people just like you, right across Australia, who are ending these so-called climate wars right here, right now. So I'm going to leave you with a simple question this afternoon. How will you meet this moment? How will you face the challenge of climate change in the most important decade we have to make a difference? The land needs us, and communities are responding by taking the lead and not waiting to follow. Now is not the time for another hero. It's the time for all of us to shine together. Thank you.